They say family will always stand by you until the day you stop doing everything for them. For years, I was the quiet one, the helper, the one who kept the lights on while everyone else took the credit. I never complained when money was tight or when my sister bragged about her hard work that I secretly paid for. I thought kindness would be enough to keep peace in her home. But peace ended the moment she threw hot tea in my face. That burn wasn't just from the tea. It was from the realization that I had been living in someone else's shadow, keeping them comfortable while I suffered in silence. That day, I walked out with nothing but my pride and a promise. From now on, the only person I'll take care of is me. She thought kicking me out would break me, but it only showed me how strong I really was. And soon, she would learn what happens when the one you depend on finally walks away. My name is Claire, and I never thought my own sister would turn into a stranger right before my eyes. It happened on an ordinary Saturday morning. The smell of fresh tea filled the kitchen and sunlight spilled across the counter. I asked my sister Megan a simple question. Why she kept spending money on expensive clothes when our bills were due next week. She didn't like that. Her eyes darkened, and before I could step back, she grabbed her cup and threw hot tea right in my face. The burning sting shot across my cheek, and I froze in disbelief. "What's wrong with you?" I shouted, wiping my face with a towel. She smirked. "Don't question me, Claire. You're lucky I even let you live here." Her words cut deeper than the burn. She stood there with her arms crossed, acting like she owned the place. The same house I had been keeping afloat for months, secretly paying the rent, the electric bill, and even the Wi-Fi. She had no idea. "I pay every bill in this house," I snapped. "If I stop, this whole place will fall apart." Megan laughed like it was a joke. "Yeah, right. You don't even make enough to take care of yourself." She didn't know that every time she bragged about her shopping trips, I was skipping dinners to save enough to cover the rent. I stood there trembling, not from fear, but from the sudden clarity of how much she had taken me for granted. "Fine," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. "If you think you can manage this house without me, go ahead." She rolled her eyes. "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." So, I didn't. I packed my few bags, grabbed my laptop, and walked out. But before closing the door, I turned and said, "When the lights go out, don't call me." She laughed as I left. But deep down, I knew soon enough that laughter would fade. The moment I stepped outside the house, I felt two things at once: anger and freedom. For years, I had lived under the same roof as my ungrateful sister, silently keeping everything running while she played queen. Now I was done. I spent that night at my friend Olivia's apartment. She was shocked when she saw the red mark on my cheek. "What happened to you?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "Megan threw tea in my face," I said flatly. "I'm not going back." Olivia shook her head. "You don't deserve that. Let her handle her own mess." So, I stopped paying the rent, the electricity, the Wi-Fi, everything. I didn't send a single dollar that month. At first, I imagined Megan still living her perfect little life, shopping, gossiping, and posting selfies online. But I knew it wouldn't last long. 2 weeks later, my phone started buzzing with messages. "Did you forget to pay the electric bill? The landlord's been calling." "What's going on?" "Claire, answer me. I need your help." I smiled. It was the peace I'd been waiting for. When I didn't respond, the texts turned angry. "Don't think you can just walk away. You'll regret this." But I didn't. Not for a second. By the third week, I heard from one of our neighbors, Mrs. Patterson. She told me Megan had been begging the landlord for extra time to pay rent. The Wi-Fi had been cut off and she was borrowing power from next door to charge her phone. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not yet. She needed this lesson. Still, a small part of me wondered how far she would fall before realizing the truth that everything she had depended on me, and she was about to find out the hard way. By the end of the month, Megan's little kingdom finally started to crumble. The lights in the house went out first. Then the landlord taped an eviction notice on the front door, big and red, for everyone in the neighborhood to see. I didn't even have to imagine it. Mrs. Patterson sent me a picture. Megan had gone from posting living my best life selfies to sitting in the dark with candles. The same girl who once called me pathetic was now begging the neighbors for help. A week later, she called me. I stared at her name on the screen, but didn't answer. Then another call came and another. Finally, I picked up just to hear what she had to say. Her voice cracked through the phone. "Claire, please. The landlord's threatening to change the locks. I don't know what to do." I took a deep breath. "Maybe you should sell one of those designer bags you bought with the money you didn't earn." "Don't be cruel," she whispered. "I'm scared." For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the sting of the tea, her mocking laugh, and those cruel words. "Don't let the door hit you. You wanted to live without me, remember? Congratulations, you're doing it." Then I hung up. 2 days later, I got a message from Olivia. "You won't believe this," she said. "I saw Megan at the cafe working behind the counter. She looked different." Different. That word stayed in my mind. Maybe it meant humbled. Or maybe life was just returning her the same pain she once handed me. But what I didn't know then was that her troubles were far from over because Megan had done something far worse behind my back. Something that was about to drag us both into a storm. Moving out of that house was the best decision I ever made. I rented a small studio apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I bought a second-hand couch, a cheap lamp, and some fresh flowers to make it feel alive. For the first time in years, I woke up without hearing Megan's shouting or feeling her judgment. I got a new job at a local cafe. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me peace. I made friends, laughed again, and started saving money. People respected me there, something I hadn't felt at home in a long time. Every night I'd make myself a cup of tea, the same thing she once threw at me, and think about how far I'd come. The burn mark on my cheek had faded, but the lesson never did. One evening, while I was closing the cafe, Olivia walked in holding her phone. "Claire," she said carefully, "you might want to see this." It was a text from the landlord back at my old house. "You need to pay the overdue balance under your name or face legal action." I frowned. "Under my name. I moved out weeks ago." Olivia looked confused. "That's what I thought, but it says your name is still on the lease and apparently there are new loans connected to your address." My heart started pounding. I hadn't signed anything new. That night, I logged into my online credit account and froze. There were 2 new loans, both taken under my name. Thousands of dollars. The lender's contact name, Megan Harper, my own sister. I felt sick. Not only had she thrown tea in my face and kicked me out, she had now used my identity to take loans. The next morning, I walked straight into the police station, carrying every document I had. It was time to stop being silent. I'll never forget the day she showed up. It was raining, the kind of cold drizzle that makes the world feel gray. I was closing the cafe when I heard someone pounding on the glass door. When I looked up, my heart stopped. It was Megan. Her hair was a mess, her clothes wrinkled, and the same girl who used to walk around like a queen now looked broken. I hesitated before unlocking the door. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. She stepped inside, shivering. "Claire, please. I need your help." I crossed my arms. "Help? You threw tea in my face, kicked me out, and then stole my name to take loans. Why are you even here?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I could pay them off before you found out." I was desperate. "Desperate," I repeated, almost laughing. "You were greedy. You wanted easy money." She fell to her knees. "Please don't report me. The loan officers have been coming to the house. They said they'll sue both of us because your name's on everything." I stared down at her. 4 years, I'd carried her weight, the bills, the groceries, the responsibilities she never cared about. And now, she wanted me to carry her crimes, too. No, I said firmly. You made your choice, Megan. Now face the consequences. Her eyes widened. Claire, you can't. But before she could finish, my phone buzzed. It was Detective Harris from the police station. Miss Harper, he said, we've confirmed the loans were filed using your stolen ID. We're issuing an arrest warrant for your sister. Megan's face turned white as she overheard him. She covered her mouth and whispered, "You really did it." "Yes," I said quietly. "For once, I did something for myself." She begged me not to let them take her, but I didn't move. I'd given her every chance to change. When the police arrived, she looked at me one last time and said, "You're going to regret this." But I didn't. Not then, not ever. As they led her away in handcuffs, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. I wasn't celebrating her fall. I was finally free from her control. I wiped my eyes, locked the cafe, and whispered to myself, "This time, the bills are paid in full by karma." The investigation moved faster than I expected. Within a week, the police gathered enough evidence to prove everything. Megan had forged my digital signature, faked my ID, and used my personal details to apply for 2 high-interest loans. Detective Harris called me back to the station. "You did the right thing," he said. "We've spoken to the lenders. Your record will be cleared once the court confirms the fraud." Still, part of me couldn't believe it had come to this. My own sister sitting in a courtroom avoiding my eyes as the charges were read aloud. Identity theft, forgery, and financial fraud. When the judge asked if I wanted to say anything, I stood up. My hands were shaking, but my voice didn't waver. "Your Honor," I began. "I never wanted revenge. I just wanted peace. I paid every bill to keep a roof over her head. And she threw tea in my face, kicked me out, and then stole my name. I'm not asking for punishment. I'm asking for accountability." The courtroom fell silent. The judge nodded slowly, then turned to Megan. "You abused the trust of your own sister. That kind of betrayal deserves consequences." When the verdict came, Megan was sentenced to 1 year in jail and ordered to pay full restitution. Her bank accounts were frozen, and the court cleared my name completely. As the officers led her out, she looked back at me. No arrogance, no anger, just quiet defeat. For the first time, I didn't feel anger anymore, just closure. A few months later, I was sitting in my small apartment with Olivia celebrating. The cafe owner had promoted me to manager, and I'd finally saved enough to start my own online baking business, something I'd always dreamed about. "You really turned it all around," Olivia said with a smile. "From getting tea thrown in your face to running your own business." I laughed softly. "Yeah, guess that's what happens when you stop pouring your energy into people who only spill it back at you." Life felt lighter. The bills were paid. The lights were always on. And peace filled every corner of my home. One day, I got a letter from the correctional facility. It was from Megan. Inside was a short note. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of it. Maybe when I get out, I'll start over the way you did." I folded the letter and set it aside. I wasn't sure if I'd ever respond, but at least now the story had finally closed. As I sat by the window watching the sunset paint the sky, I smiled to myself. She once threw hot tea in my face. But in the end, life made sure she was the one who felt the burn. A year later, my life looked nothing like the chaos I left behind. The cafe had grown into a full-blown bakery. Claire's Corner, a cozy little place filled with warm light, laughter, and the smell of cinnamon and fresh bread. People from all over town came for my recipes. I even started a small YouTube channel to share my baking journey. And to my surprise, it began gaining followers fast. One morning as I wiped down the counter, a customer smiled and said, "You've got a beautiful life here. You must have an amazing family." For a moment, I froze, then smiled softly. "I built my own," I said. I wasn't the same timid woman who once begged her sister to be kind. I was strong, independent, and proud of every scar that brought me here. Sometimes I thought about Megan. She was released from jail a few months ago. I heard she moved to another city and started working at a community kitchen. Maybe prison changed her. Maybe it didn't. But either way, I'd already forgiven her. Not for her sake, but for mine. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means finally setting down the weight someone else made you carry. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, I brewed myself a cup of tea. Not out of habit, but as a quiet reminder. I looked at the rising steam and whispered, "You threw tea in my face once, Megan, but all it did was teach me how to stay calm when life gets hot." And with that, I smiled because this time, every drop was mine.